My name is Matt Evans, and I am sitting in Sonoma on the day after Christmas, 2021, with my mom, Marge Evans, Margaret Evans. Hi, Mom.
Hi, man.
I'm just curious how you became you, if that makes sense. And so, maybe a specific question to kind of begin to hone in on that is a question about your memory of your childhood. What what do you remember as the formative experiences or the formative themes in your childhood that make you who you are today?
Whoa, whoa. Well, when I was really little, before I went to school, I was a little free spirit
Mm-hmm.
that wandered around the neighborhood with my black cocker spaniel. And I also had black hair, and we both were curly haired. And and I liked to play on some swings that were in a vacant lot and sing to my heart's content, zippity doo dah. And
Do you remember that, or is that kind of stories that were
no, no,
told to
no,
you?
no, I remember,
Yeah.
I remember them. And hmm,
How's
and
that? How did that kind of experience sort of form who you are today, or
well,
how did?
it makes me realize that at one time I was very playful,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to get up in the mornings. This is in the summertime, and wander down to a couple's house, the Hennigs, who had no children, and I would go in their back door and visit them and have breakfast with them.
Oh, cute.
Then I'd wander right back home again because I was the middle of five,
Mm-hmm.
so there was a lot going on
Yeah.
in my house when I was little.
How did being a
Well,
middle child?
I
Did you
think
see
it was
traditional middle child
it was easy to fall
traits?
through the cracks. I think
Mm-hmm.
um, as I got into my dad was very uh, stern. Uh, he was a very hard worker. Sometimes had to work three jobs to support the family, so
Yeah.
it wasn't.
Did your mom work?
No, because she had five kids at home and no help. I mean,
Yeah.
there wasn't any help cleaning. There wasn't any help.
Yeah.
But us. And on Saturday mornings, we all had jobs to do. Over the years, one of my jobs was to scrub down the bathroom. At that time, the only bathroom in the house.
Wow. So there were seven of you living with one bathroom.
Yeah.
What do you think were the formative things in your that kind of like
Well,
made you who you are? Like,
well, there was pressure to perform, and so I'm not a competitive person because I couldn't compete with my older sister who was very
yeah.
bright. On the other hand, my older brother, um,
Tom.
Tom, got kicked out of the high school he was going to, and then sent his senior year to the high school, to the public high school.
Mm.
So he was a real um, fuck up,
Mm-hmm.
and Pat was the star,
Mm.
and then Colleen was the cutie, and Jim was the baby. So then I applied to Marquette, where Pat had gone,
Mm-hmm.
and was accepted. Now, my freshman year, I rushed for a sorority
Mm-hmm.
and was in the sorority for a year. And then my very dear friend from high school transferred to Marquette, and Marion Rajani was her name, and she wanted to join the sorority,
Mm.
and the sorority turned her down.
Oof.
And I thought, I don't like this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this anymore.
That's great.
So I dropped that out. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
not. I didn't think it was right, and
All right.
Marion was very hurt. And so anyway,
What are some of your best memories of that period of your life?
it was the camaraderie of the six of us
Okay.
that got us through. And every night someone was supposed to cook.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was my friend Lainey's turn to cook, all she knew how to do was boil eggs. So we would always have hard boiled eggs.
Wow. And you were just eating one the other day, so
Right.
it took.
Right. Anyway, well, we used to go for beer tastings We were underage, but we would go for beer tasting.
Was the drinking age 18 or 21 at that point?
I think it was 21, but we were getting
Really?
close.
Huh.
And anyway, so, it was the camaraderie of the women. I don't see them anymore
I don't
at
get
all.
to touch.
But,
Yeah.
but at one time we were really very close. So I took a 5th year of school and got my teaching credential. After I graduated, my dad bought me a round trip ticket to San Francisco on the train because I was going to come out and visit my sister Pat and see if I could get a job. And that train ride out was a real liberating thing. Yeah, I was moving into possibilities, and my hope was a more liberal lifestyle. And yes. Pat would drive me around with her 3 little kids in the car.
Amazing.
And her big belly. She was due to deliver any time, and so we were in Tiburon at the Reed School. She parked in the parking lot, and I went in to meet the principal. Mr. Usselton was his name, and he wanted to come out and meet Pat. So after this interview, we walked out to the parking lot, and Pat is asleep. She had a station wagon, and so she was in the back, lying down with this big belly there. So I said, Pat,
wake up.
I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Usselton, who was the principal of the school. Anyway, I got the job.
Yeah.
And it was a lovely job. So on my budget, Colleen was living with me, and we were eating a lot of canned beans, a lot of hot dogs. I mean, so then we moved into the city and lived with another roommate that I had lived with at Mrs. Shields' house, and Annie. And so the 3 of us got a house on 2nd Avenue in the city. That was 2 stories, and Colleen and I had the bedroom and bath upstairs, and Annie had a room downstairs. And we had a cat named Boo because someone had asked us to take care of this cat while she was going to be in Europe for a while, and she didn't come home. And so we had Boo, and so I taught for a couple years. And
do you remember that how do you remember that period of your life?
Well, it was an adventurous time.
Yeah.
I would go when I lived in the city. We'd go down to City Lights bookstore and hang out there and meet different people, ethnically different people, which was a big revelation to me. When I was a kid, we would drive down to Florida to visit my grandpa Burns in Fort Lauderdale. And I had a cousin living there too, Arlene Lacera, and she and I would hang out together while we were down there. And one time we were going on a bus, and I walked to the back of the bus, which was what school kids always did. And Arlene grabbed me and she said, "You can't sit in the back of the bus. That's only for blacks."
Yeah, well.
And I was aware of the drinking fountains being separated, and so I was aware of how odd that was as a kid, as a grammar school kid. In college, there I didn't have that much opportunity to meet people of different backgrounds, but in San Francisco that began to open up.
Yeah.
And so I taught for 2 years, and I was awarded early tenure. So I had that, and I thought, now I can go any place. Well, I just wanted to explore. I just felt like there was so much out there that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And then the only way I was going to be able to explore was to work. So anyway, so that year, I applied, but I was also dating a Marine at the time. was offered a job in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it. And I told Carl, let's see what happens over this year. He really wanted to get married, and I really didn't. So while I was in Germany, he found someone else, which was perfectly reasonable. I was a little disappointed, but not brokenhearted. I was in Germany for 2 years. I was granted an NDEA Institute scholarship to study um, uh, reading disabilities and working with children who had reading disabilities. And this was in Switzerland during the summer. So I accepted that. I didn't go home that summer between the 2 years, and I accepted that institute scholarship and had a wonderful exciting learning experience with two instructors that were just living in Switzerland and listening to the bells ring. And it was on what we Lac Le Mans, which was what the French called Lake Geneva. That was a beautiful time.
That was a beautiful place.
That was a beautiful place, and just a beautiful time in Germany. I explored the German countryside a lot, and in my car, my little Volkswagen that I bought.
You bought it there? Did you buy that Volkswagen there, and you shipped it back to San Francisco?
Yeah.
That's so cool. So you buy it new in Germany?
Yeah, I did. And I can remember I didn't have a lot of money. I was also saving money.
Yeah.
So I took this trip to Greece on a tour with a lot of different people. And at one point toward the end of the tour, there was a family, this little boy maybe was, 8 or 9 years old. And I made the comment that I wasn't going to buy anything anymore or go out to dinner or something because I was really low on money. And this little boy said, "Well, I'll help you." It was so sweet. It's funny the things that the kindnesses, the little kindnesses of other people, and the innocence of the offer was sweet. Anyway, after 2 years, I came home. So we lived in the hills in San Anselmo, and I met, while I was there, a little girl came up to the door one day to introduce herself. She lived just a few houses down the hill, and she said, she asked me all kinds of questions about myself, and then she said, "Well, my mom and dad are Catholic too." She had asked me that, and so they invited me to join or to come with them to this church, this community, a renegade Catholic community.
Renegade Catholic.
Well, it was.
I love it. No, I know. I'm familiar with, because you're still friends with some of those people.
Yeah.
Don
and Marcy Leach are friends. And the community was very interested in taking care of other people. Really reaching out. And I learned that, and I was a part of that outreach. As my mom was. Mom was really a very outreaching person as far as taking in people and helping people, that kind of thing. Anyway, so that was part of my growth, I think, in independence from the traditional Catholic Church. Because the one priest that was so great was a Franciscan who was willing to explore possibilities with the community.
How big was the community?
How big? Oh, probably, 30 or 40 people. Well, and what we did was we took in kids from marginalized and had mental deficiencies. I don't know quite the right wording for that, but and they were invited to church services if they wanted to come, and they could receive communion and all, and but the pastor of the church, and we were meeting in the gym. We were called the gym mass. We were meeting in the gym. So I applied and got a job in Fairfax, which was a community that did not have the as high average income of families as the Tiburon and Belvedere did. So and I got that job. But I was a reading specialist then, rather than having a classroom, and the job was in the junior high, and I realized that by the time a kid is in junior high and having trouble reading, they already consider themselves dummies, and the school considers them dummies, and it was a really hard job.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that. I don't know quite how many years. Maybe 5 years. I had taught for 11 years.
Wow.
All told. And at the end of the time, I said to my principal, I'm looking for another job out of teaching, and whenever I get one, I'm going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So just know that I'll be dropping out of a school year if I get a job. And I did. One of my Marquette friends recommended that she was aware of a study that was in San Francisco, a national heart research study, and they were looking for health counselors. And I thought, well, and they were training people, and I thought, well, I'm trainable. So I applied for that job and got it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had wanted to buy a townhouse. I had wanted to buy something and use that as my down payment for a condominium.
Cool.
Which I did in San Rafael. And so I was living there then by myself.
What's a piece of wisdom or a few pieces of wisdom from your life that you would offer someone?
I would say be true to yourself. Try and know yourself well enough that your decisions fit who you are. I made a lot of mistakes in that. Give yourself a pat on the back for questioning and challenging. And
that's moving away from the church kind of as part of moving out to San Francisco.
That was the beginning.
Yeah.
The very beginning of that. But I still at that time was going to church in the beginning and being very faithful to the church.
Wow.
But so over the 50 years since I left home, or 48 years since I left home, I've evolved. And that was a long evolution.
Yeah. So to fast forward a little bit, so you met Dad, and you guys got married, and you moved up to Boonville. Were you excited going into it?
No.
You knew you didn't want to go?
I was scared.
Yeah.
I had, by that time, Todd and I had been married just a year or so, and we had bought one house, remodeled, then and brought Matthew home to that house.
That's me.
You, the baby, and then while you were still a baby, I got pregnant again. My hope was that your dad could manage it from down in Marin, and he was very aware that couldn't happen. But I was married. I had made this commitment. Scott was just newly born, and so 6 months later, after Scott was born, we moved up to Philo.
Yeah. Was it like a test move, or was it like a...
No.
Yeah.
We sold the house,
right,
and that helped us buy the property in Philo. No, it was permanent.
Yeah.
And but what I'd lost was a community of support, of friends, a large community of support. And
so tell me about your favorite memories and important memories of Scott and I growing up.
It would be of Scott
and me growing up. Shit. So it would be growing up with Scott and me growing up.
Because
right.
Because of his preposition.
I know.
Sorry.
You removed the object.
I can't help it.
I know.
I'm
very glad we caught that on audio. It's very representative of our conversation.
Yes. Okay. So what was the question?
I'm curious what some of your, let's start with your best memories of Scott and I during that period of school, Scott and me.
We had the kid goats, and you were just the kids too.
Yeah.
And that was a fun time.
Okay, so you liked the goats at one point before you didn't like them. I don't think any of us liked them at the end except Dad.
Well, they became kind of a burden. But
Yeah, they're young.
actually I didn't mind when there were times when I had to milk in the morning, and going down to the barn in the semi darkness, and going into the barn and getting a goat up on the stanchion and sitting next to her with my shoulder leaning against her and starting to milk.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very sweet time.
Mm.
You know, it was just me
Kids,
and the
happy
goat.
birthday. Off the record,
Right.
for the record.
Yeah, so and you kids were so tender. All the little neighbor kids too.
Yeah.
And the brothers and.
What are the things that you remember?
Well,
of
he was
Scott's
a
life?
bubbly little personality.
Yeah.
He just had a lot of bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and he was easy.
For the sake of posterity, note here a couple things. One, we're milking goats, or you are. I also ended up milking goats.
Yeah, you did.
At whatever hour of the morning. We're walking a mile to get to the school bus to take us to school.
And you walked home
This is
again.
not suburban living.
No. It was country. We swam in the river.
Yeah.
But one of my fondest memories is reading to you both.
Mm.
That I loved reading to you,
Mm-hmm.
and because it was a quiet time. It was, just a time to be. And I can remember one time. One of the problems was you each had different bedrooms. So at night, I had to read to one of you, and then the other one catch before they went to sleep.
Tell me about these times.
Well, one of them was your graduation day, and you needed a haircut, and you needed to be over there at a certain time, and we were leaving to get there, and you still hadn't gotten your haircut. You were well. I think that Scott was more happy-go-lucky, and you were more straightforwardly goal-oriented. Easy. Yeah. You were a challenge. You were the challenging one.
Even when I was young? I mean, really?
Let me think.
Because in high school, I was a pretty good kid compared to Scott.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. I didn't know what Scott was up to.
Well, you did
it's
eventually.
True. Yeah, right. No, and it's true. You were definitely the one who had more common sense, and more common sense.
So tell me, but I'm sure that I was more difficult. But tell me how I was more difficult and how Scott was easier.
You would challenge. First of all, you didn't like to do anything on time.
Oh man, that started early, didn't it? Wow.
Oh God.
It's so funny. Like, what's your earliest memory of me not being on time?
Oh golly. Well, having to leave for school.
Okay.
And
like elementary school. So we're
yeah.
This is
yeah.
Wow. And I was dilly-dallying. The next, I guess, question that I want to ask you is about Scott's death and how it affected you and how you now, carry that.
The blow of losing a child and you losing a sibling is tremendous. And one of my regrets is that I would never get to know him as an adult like I have gotten to know you.
Yeah.
That he was still unformed, and again, we all continue to form.
Yeah.
Well, the times though when we got the call, do you know where your son is? And we'd say, yeah, he's upstairs. And no, he's not. He's in the treehouse.
And it's funny because, my perception of that is that, he was actually a pretty good kid. He wasn't, that kind of stuff was pretty, it was adventurous.
Yes.
But it wasn't
and it was altruistic.
He was getting through school fine.
Yeah.
He was going to go to college, a decent college, it was pretty typical teenage stuff, but my perception of your perception at the time was that it was super concerning.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And the party at our house, holy cow. How do I carry Scott's loss? Well, he's in my heart. I talk to him once in a while. when your dad can't find something, I say to Scott, hey, Scott, help him find it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or it's a
Yeah.
one thing I never talked about was my starting to weave,
Mm.
and I wove for over 10 years, and that was really an artistic outlet for me, a craft outlet that I never knew I had in me.
Yeah.
And after Scott died, I stopped weaving. I sold all my looms, and and I gave away all my fibers. I'd drive around town and not and I'd shop. Ugh. And
That's
yeah, I was really, but then
brilliant,
I
yeah.
got into quilting, and that has been a wonderful outlet for me, and the and my yeah,
Mom is sitting here under this beautiful quote that
and
she's
most of it is that it's not traditional, that it's blatantly out of the old-fashioned quilting, most of it, and that kind of fits, I think, maybe with who I am anyway. That I like it this way. So that's been a big part of getting through the loss of Scott was and also following you at Stanford, and we weren't really involved in your life, but we were there for you when you were
there
accomplishing
fairly
and
like often.
doing
Yeah.
yeah.
And you got to know some of my friends, like you got to know Andrew.
I was amused that you were playing in the band your freshman year.
Yeah, that was
Oh God, that was so funny. um, oh, just proud of you. And it was really an empty nest. You were gone, and Scott had died, and uh, so that year was a hard for all of us, a hard year. But I was glad we went to Canada.
Yeah, we did. We went to Lake Louise.
Area, yeah. Right. Yeah, yeah. But it was good to be the three of us to be together. I really appreciated that. I appreciated that. What brings me joy?
Now,
chocolate.
Mom.
Well, harmony with you and with your dad. Being able to talk with each other and appreciate each other, and also being with friends. Patty is a dear friend, and then my walking buddies that I don't walk with anymore, but we're still buddies. My quilting friends, my gourmet group, my meditation group, you and Dad, and then my friendships are very important to me. Yeah, Suzanne Ann Maureen and Kathleen and Laura, those are women that I
think they all look up to you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because I'm far more liberal. I think that's my water.
I know, but you haven't been drinking it, so I'm going to.
I know, you can have.
Unless you want.
I may have more. Drink it all if you want. Figuring out my relationship with a cosmic being that I don't want to call God, the planet that we're on, learning about that and how the changes over the billions of years, we've got what we've got now.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating.
Yeah, it is stunning when you contemplate the sheer volume of things that had to happen.
Yes, for us to be where we are now, and I think about, the Earth is going to be here, has been here far longer than we have, and it will be here far longer than we once we go. I mean, it's a so that we're not the big hot shots. I mean, there have been,
Right. scheme of things.
Right. But we have the I want to say stardust in us from the very beginning.
Right.
There's nothing new in the universe. It just is. It's evolved, but that dust that started is is part of us now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So